It is Monday, January 8th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today. You know that dude, Bobby Skinner from the Talking Giants world. I am Chris Rose, producer Mikey, along for the ride as well. You know, it's always fun because you get ready for that second season. So 14 teams still alive for the right to play in Super Bowl 58. But then I always remember what it's like when my team doesn't make the playoffs, which is most years. It's so sad. You all right?
Yeah, well, when you know the season's over, it's kind of refreshing. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
now we're finally in the off. We don't need to, push off conversations. We're here. Let's talk about everything. The people that need to be fired are fired, and hopefully see what happens. But it's very much a weird day though. Like when you wake up and it's like it's just over. Like we will not be talking about Giants games until August.
It's very that part is wild. That part's wild. But you know what? The NFL, the whole there is no offseason, it is so true because we go playoffs, 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 Super Bowl, and then literally like 2.5 weeks later, here you are with the combine.
Oh, I mean, we get into it quick. We go down to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior
Yep.
Bowl. We're wrapped up in there. We get last year because the Giants were in the divisional round. We already had our stuff booked for the Senior Bowl, and we're like, what happens if they make the conference championship? Like, we never thought that this was a possibility when we booked all this.
So isn't it nice that this year you could just hang on your travel and feel good about it?
Yeah, yeah. It'd be a little nicer to be competing, but
All right.
uh,
Let's talk about the teams that are still alive, starting with the Dallas Cowboys, who got a win in Washington on Sunday, wrapped up the NFC East and that 2 seed, which means that they will be home for the first 2 rounds of the tournament should they win wild card weekend against the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about that game later in the week because I think that's going to be really, really fun. The question here, does Mike McCarthy's coaching future in Big D hinge on getting this franchise back to at least the NFC title game for the first time in 28 years?
a lot of revenge games in these playoffs, which
Mhm.
I'm really excited about. Um, no, I think you had to beat Green Bay, right? You lose to Green Bay. There's no excuse for this Dallas Cowboys team to lose to the Packers. Then I think that's a conversation. But I really think Jerry Jones is more patient than led to believe. I mean, seemed like every year, oh, Jason Garrett's gonna be fired, and Jason Garrett never even won, the playoff games except for the one versus Detroit. Um, so I don't think he's going to be fired. Like the only way he gets fired to me would be losing to the Green Bay, which I just don't see happening for Dallas.
So this is the third straight year where McCarthy has helped this team win at least 12 games in a season, I believe, and that hasn't happened since the Cowboys were kissing Lombardi trophies in the 90s. And their path, I think, is I'm not going to say it's easy, but man, they're the only NFL team that hasn't lost at home this year. Not only that, they are a totally different team. We've talked about this throughout the regular season. They average more than 37 points per game at home, as opposed to right around 21 on the road. We're talking about more than a 2 touchdown difference offensively. Defensively, they don't get the takeaways on the road that they do at home, all that sort of stuff. So, and really for the first time, I always feel like shows always talk about the Dallas Cowboys because the Dallas Cowboys rate, right? People either love them or love to hate them. And so people want to hear about them one way or another. This is actually a Dallas team you can talk about in terms of just strictly football, not flashy headlines. Like they're a pretty good team.
Oh, they're number one scoring offense, number five scoring defense. Um, the question with Dallas though is just, hey, this is the time. We're okay, prove it because we've seen you do it well in the regular season, and we thought that Eagles win was a big win, and we'll talk about them. It's looking less and less like a big win every day. And then you lose to Buffalo in a blowout, and then you get beat by Miami, then beat Detroit. But you could have the referees make the right call in that game, and you don't beat Detroit. Uh, that's going to be the question is the second round. Like if they lose to the 49ers, I don't think there's any shame in that,
Nope.
depending on how it happens. But in the second round, you're going to be favored no matter who you face, and you're going to be the more talented team. Like there's no team other than the 49ers that can compete with that has close to what Dallas has talent wise on that roster.
Yep. Um, I, I don't expect McCarthy to bite it. I think he's going to stay. Yeah. Does it open the door if somehow they lose to the 7 seed at home with a bunch of kids running around trying to catch passes for the Green Bay Packers? I suppose that that discussion, that seat would get very warm, but I don't see Jerry pulling the trigger on something like that. But like I said, I feel like this is the best shot they've had at even when they were the 1 seed in 2016, they still had a rookie quarterback. Aaron Rodgers comes in and rips their heart out. Like that sort of stuff happens to this franchise. By the way, Mike McCarthy was coaching on the other sideline that day. So we'll see. I don't think McCarthy's going anywhere. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, they haven't. The talk was, oh, they fired Kellen Moore, like everyone, Dumbo, Mike McCarthy. Well, guess what? They had the number one scoring offense.
Right.
Kellen Moore is looking for a new job.
Right. Okay. By the way, one cool little note for you. Dak is the first Dallas quarterback to lead the league in touchdown passes since. Want to give a guess?
Roger Staubach.
Very good. 1973. How many touchdown passes do you think he had that year?
23.
Did you see this stat?
No, I swear to God, I didn't.
Bobby Skinner, way to nail it.
How about that?
You got the dude and the touchdown passes.
I thought you were going to be like, come on, dude. The 70s weren't that bad. Like, he had more than 23 touchdowns.
No, they weren't that bad.
I just knew Aikman never did it, and I'm pretty confident Romo never did it either, so I went to Staubach.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. And Chad Hutchinson never did it. All right, the Eagles, they're going to have the long path. They're going to have the long path back to – will you stop it?
Sorry.
Let's move on. Quincy Carter, did you mention him?
Hey, Quincy Carter's a great trivia. I have friends who I grew up with, and they forget Quincy Carter. I'll never forget Quincy Carter.
The Eagles are going to have a long, long path back to the Super Bowl. They are going to be the 5 seed. They're on the road Monday night, so a week from today, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nick Sirianni said after their loss to your G-men, still has total confidence in the team. Do you have any whatsoever?
Absolutely not. They're bad on defense. The Matt Patricia decision made them worse, and you can't go back once you've already done that. It made that like they are undisciplined, and the lack of talent on defense outside the pass rush is not there, and the pass rush isn't getting home like it was before. Offensively, like I don't know if Devontae Smith is going to play. A.J. Brown went down, and it's not supposed to be a serious injury, but like Jalen Hurts had nothing. He hurt his middle finger in the game. She was giving everyone the bird. They lack edge. Like there was a viral clip of Carl Banks, the Giants, radio announcer. One of the great linebackers. Who's like, I would just jump over the pile on the tush push and just hit Jalen Hurts. He's like, and people lost their mind. The Giants did it yesterday.
They did.
The Eagles O-line didn't do shit. They just sat there and took it. They are a team that looks like it has a lot of issues, like within the locker room. And the talent is just not there on defense, and I think they're badly coached on offense and defense right now.
Yeah, I hate saying stuff about the locker room when I'm not covering the team. I just think that's uncomfortable for me. I won't ever guess and stuff like that. When they were 10-1, it still didn't feel like the Eagles were 10-1. It was weird. Like it felt like the offensive guys were saying, man, we still can't kick it into gear. And the defense wasn't nearly as good as it was a season ago. So the fact that they lost 5 of their last 6 down the stretch, some of that was a really, really tough schedule. And then the end was inexcusable with what happened at home to the Cardinals. They still had the 2 seed possibly, and certainly the division crown right in their lap. I mean, how do you explain what happened? And then yesterday, I know that they were still – that was a weird one because they were still kind of fighting for something, but Dallas had to lose. They knew Dallas wasn't going to lose against Washington. And so now kind of midway through, your scoreboard peaking, and we're off to a terrible start. And so let's just pull our guys and rest them, make sure nobody injures their middle finger on their throwing in and all sorts of stuff. But, yeah, I still think they can win down in Tampa because I don't think much of that NFC South at all. In fact, Tampa had 1 win against the team that made the playoffs this year, and that was the Green Bay Packers. That was it. So I still believe that they can win a game, but they're going to get their doors blown off in the next round, in the divisional round, if they make it.
Yeah, I think the Eagles beat the Bucs earlier in the year, but
they did.
Yeah, they're just badly coached, right? Like you had a second game
Yeah.
versus Wink Martindale in this blitz, and you didn't have any answers for it. Like you played
Hmm.
them 2 weeks ago, and you didn't have any answers for what they were sending. And then defensively, I think they've gotten a lot worse, and now they're trying to go back to more zone base, and they're leaving guys wide open. It was like from I was obviously watching this game closely for the Giants' point of view, and I'm like, man, this just looks like a bad football team we're playing. Like this doesn't feel like beating the Eagles, who we've haven't beat at home since 2013 and only beat a couple times in the last 8 years. They just look like a bad football team and like untalented on defense, and then offensively just discombobulated. Now,
Yep.
part of that is, and I actually put Jalen Hurts as the least of the issues on this too. By the way, I know everyone will point at Hurts because he's the quarterback. He didn't have Devontae Smith or DeAndre Swift, and then AJ Brown went down on a catch. Uh, he really had no answers, and he had no he had Julio Jones and Quez Watkins as his like best two wide receivers out there. He really had, I mean, obviously Goddard, but they didn't really have any answers for anything.
I do want to ask you one other thing. The Eagles' offensive line is one of the best in the league. Wouldn't we agree?
Yeah, it is the best in my opinion.
Why the hell don't they run the ball?
Yeah, I don't know because they are like I'm not looking at their numbers right in front of me, but that was one of the best things about them last year. It's like, okay, like one, no matter where you're playing us passing, we're going to attack you in whatever way you're vulnerable. But it's like also it's like, hey, we can just run the ball on you, and they've kind of turned into like one to go 4 and 5 wide and let Jalen Hurts drop back and be a hero.
Very strange. Very strange. I think the offseason will come quickly for
I
them.
don't think
I
they
don't
trust
know.
any of their backs either. As
They
much as
trust
Swift
any of
is
their
having a good
backs.
year, he does make a lot of mental mistakes too. Um, I know he didn't play yesterday. Uh, so I mean, I think they run the ball halfway decently, but
But it
yeah,
doesn't feel like they consistently run it. That's what it feels like.
right.
All right, so the Bills, Sunday Night Football, they hold on to beat the Miami Dolphins. That means they take a fourth straight AFC East crown. They will be the 2 seed. They will host the Pittsburgh Steelers next Sunday. I loved what Tirico and Collinsworth called it last night early in the game, the Josh Allen experience. And we got it full throttle, right? He was completing at a high percentage, had a season high in scrimmage yards last night. He also had the 3 turnovers. Does he have to tighten things up for Buffalo to make a deep postseason run? Or do we just kind of throw our hands in the air and say, well, this is kind of who he is?
Yeah, he does have to tighten things up. Obviously, things need to, they could, have some better surroundings there. But do you walk away from like these last 6 weeks or whatever it was where Buffalo has went on a stretch of winning games and like, oh, this is a team that can confidently win 4 games in a row, right? Because that's what the playoffs is about. It's
Mhm.
not about being able to beat any, like they can beat any team in the NFL. They can beat the Ravens, so they can beat the 49ers in my opinion. But can they beat good teams 4 games in a row? I just don't see it happening. I mean, if they don't have a punt return for a touchdown last night, like that might be a totally different game. I, I don't have a lot of confidence in this team to be able to tighten things up, like you said.
Right? They move the ball beautifully at times. They really do. They're humming. He's throwing the ball to guys that feel open. He makes critical runs when he needs to. He's tough as shit. He just, all of that stuff. And then he gets in the red zone, and it's like, wee! It's like he's playing backyard football. Just, well, what the hell? Like the first interception he threw to Eli Apple, I know that he and Gabe Davis had something that's going on. Like they're both team captains. They both seem like great guys. But holy shit, it feels like every other week there's a miscommunication between those two at a critical time. And man, that just gets so much more light put on it when we get to the postseason. You can't get to the red zone and just throw a ball anywhere. I mean, everything is so magnified and so critical. And I just feel like Josh Allen's good for 2 to 3 of those plays. It feels very Favre-esque. And I know that was kind of like the fun. You really missed the prime Brett Favre era in the 90s where he was just, there would be times he'd throw 6 balls to the other team, but they'd only get 1 interception because it came with so much hot sauce on it. They couldn't keep their hands on it. But that's what he was doing all the time. And I feel like there's a lot of that has filtrated down to Josh Allen for whatever reason.
It really has. Like, and the turnover to me thing has gotten like kind of worse as his like he wasn't turning the ball over like that much in the beginning with Dable, and then last year he had some, but it feels like this year they're just happening a lot more. I should have pulled up numbers on that. Um, that being said, Josh Allen is still great, right? Like you would take
Mm-hmm.
him, against like he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. They have the easiest first round matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, they're not gonna have to play the Ravens in the second round. Like they could just be in like I think I might pick them to make the AFC Championship.
Yep. Right. I mean, if they have to play 2 home games against whomever, yes. Particularly with, I mean,
Like
every one of,
if they play Pittsburgh and Houston, I'm picking the Bills in both those games.
oh, yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean, come on. Of course, they're going to be heavy favorites in both like the Steelers have gone on this cute little run. So I guess I'll give um, Mason Rudolph his flowers. But do you really expect them to be able to go up there without TJ Watt? There's no way he's going to play with that grade 2 sprain of his MCL. Come on. He's not going to be able to help them out. So now what? What are the Steelers going to do? Are they going to be able to really? I don't know. Maybe they run the ball for a million yards and George Pickens takes a slant 75 yards and that's the difference. And somehow Pittsburgh hangs on. But I would be shocked if that happened.
Yeah, I mean they basically need Josh Allen to have like 3 turnovers and
Right.
make up his Fitzpatrick take one back, another one be at the 20-yard line, and then like you said, the Steelers' offense is essentially, you know, 70-yard yak play or bust. The NFL playoffs are here, and we've teamed up with DraftKings, an official partner of the NFL, who is kicking things off with a huge offer. Throughout the playoffs, all new customers who will get $200 in bonus bets instantly when they place their first $5 wager on anything. So download the DraftKings app now and use promo code football today. Wondering what you can use your $200 in bonus bets on? Combine multiple bets together from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, not to worry. You can still join in all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code football today. Bet just $5 in any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code football today, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You'll be glad you did.
The Texans, they are division champions. They got it done Saturday night on the road against Indy. Fun game to watch. And then on Sunday, they sat there and watched what happened in Nashville as the Jags just tripped all over themselves. They dropped 5 of their final 6. So the big question, has C.J. Stroud in Houston replaced the Jags as the division darling moving forward?
I mean, I think so, right? Like CJ Stroud's sick. He's all, like that game was beautiful by CJ Stroud. And you forget, like that offensive line, well, you have Laramie Tunsil, which Laramie Tunsil versus Myles Garrett could be like the matchup of round 1 in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs.
Yep.
Like it's banged up and not overly good. You don't have Tank Dell out there. Like I watching them is so fun and seeing what Nico Collins has been able to do with CJ Stroud. And then defensively, you got like an aggressive unit that's well coached, right? Like you got a lot of guys who play fast and aggressive, whether it's Will Anderson or Jalen Petrie, whoever, young guys. Um, yeah, like they are to me one of the like most fun stories in the NFL this year, if not the most fun. Like what the Texans went from to like last year at this time, we're talking about why would anybody take this job, and now they are division champions with a young ascending franchise quarterback.
Right. And, it's very simple. Just boil it all down to its primary level. Do you have your quarterback? One, yes. Do you have your head coach? Sure as hell feels that way with D'Amico Ryans. Stroud is, I can't remember a young guy that came in this league where there is zero panic in his game. Like there have been some really good, he feels very Burrow-esque in that, like everything is at this level. And he is just fantastic. We give a lot of stats on this show, and that's fine. And most of them you listen, you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. Here's one that to me is unbelievable. C.J. Stroud is the 3rd quarterback in the last 50 seasons to lead the NFL in passing yards per game and touchdown to interception ratio. You ready for the other 2? Joe Montana in 1989, the year the Niners won a Super Bowl and he won an MVP. Tom Brady in 2007, the year they had the perfect regular season, he was an MVP and they lost to somebody in the Super Bowl. So we're
Somebody.
talking about when you are being mentioned with not only guys in the same breath, but guys in their peak, maybe the peak season of their respective careers. That's incredible.
Yeah, he is not like a lot of times these young quarterbacks, they have flashes. You're like, ooh, this is good. Like this team's like, like Will Levis with Tennessee. Like, hey, some good stuff, exciting
Mm-hmm.
times in Tennessee. But there's still a lot of question marks. With CJ Stroud, the question mark is, are we gonna be like, is he the fourth or the sixth quarterback? Like we're gonna be doing those type of like nitpicking conversations in 3 or 4 years with him if he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. Not like any like is he actually good or bad conversations.
He's fantastic. And I know that the Colts, you follow this stuff a lot more closely than I in terms of their coverage and how much zone they play compared to man. And it's going to be very different this weekend against the Cleveland Browns because Jim Schwartz loves to let his guys on the outside play. And we'll see. When the Browns whooped up on the Texans a few weeks ago, C.J. Stroud did not play. And they were missing some key players. Will Anderson did not play. So this is going to be a very different Houston lineup that comes out there. But it certainly feels like there are some questions moving forward in Jacksonville. I don't know how many of them surround Trevor Lawrence. I think I'm willing to give him a pass because of the high ankle sprain where he didn't miss any time, and then the shoulder, which did force him to miss a game. But he personally is on a 5-game losing streak to wrap up that season. The only win the Jags got in their last 6 games was with C.J. Beathard starting. And the fact that the Jags had a firm grasp on that division and couldn't close it out. I mean, the fact that we went to week 18 and they hadn't solidified that thing at the beginning of the year, you looked at that division, you were like, oh, God, they're going to win the division by 4 games. And here they were. They were in a 3-way tie heading into the last week of the regular season, and they still couldn't get it done against a Tennessee team that doesn't have the same amount of talent that they do.
Yeah, and Trevor, I haven't like this year hasn't made me lose anything that I thought about Trevor Lawrence, right? And maybe I wasn't maybe crowning him before the year like some people, but he was let down by his surroundings this year, whether it was protection up front or like the receivers just kind of screwing him, whether it's drop passes or 1 foot being out of bounds. I mean, yesterday Evan Ingram, popped up a pass for an interception, and then the Titans score off of that. Uh, and I think offensively, there's just some issues there with Peterson and Press Taylor as the OC. Uh, I'm not like I think it's a tougher question because I think Jacksonville should bounce back.
I
I
agree.
really do, and
Yeah.
I think their talent is young and ascending, and obviously they'll have another offseason to add some more. Like I wouldn't write this Jacksonville team off. Like I still think Trevor Lawrence is going to be pretty damn awesome,
Okay,
even though
but
he's had flaws this year.
if you had to pick one quarterback to start your franchise with in the AFC South, who are you picking?
I mean Stroud. I mean he's been better than Trevor Lawrence this year, and obviously he's 2 years. Not I don't know about age, but he's a rookie. Trevor Lawrence is in year
3.
3. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
3.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't, to me, it didn't even feel close because what's the one thing Lawrence does way too much is turn the ball over, and particularly down the stretch. He was horrible with that sort of stuff. CJ Stroud just doesn't turn it over. He makes big plays. He makes big throws. He stood in there the other day and threw it. I forget if it was Collins that caught the ball inside the 10, but the one where he had a defender
Yeah, it was Nico
running
Collins. Yep.
right in Stroud's grill and threw a laser. Like that is big league stuff, dude.
And that's the thing that I think Trevor struggles with, right? If there's anything that
Mm-hmm.
showed up at Clemson, is like when someone was coming down the pipe, he kind of winced a little bit and would miss. With CJ Stroud, you like you said, he didn't have that. And it's not like he's just dinking and dunking either. Like
Oh no.
he doesn't throw the ball 20 plus yards like at top of the league, but he's the best at it, right? He completed 56% of his passes throwing the ball 20 plus yards this year. Like
Amazing.
like 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like he was the best deep ball thrower in the NFL. Like it might be the best because I look at this stuff every year. Like off the top of my head thinking, I think this might be the best like deep ball passing season since I've been looking at this stuff since 2019.
Pretty damn good. Pretty fun. And I wish we weren't playing him this weekend, but I'm just happy we're playing. Beggars can't be choosers. All right, we do have some coaching news. Monday morning, Ron Rivera got it a day after his 62nd birthday, so that was nice of the Washington Commanders to, at least enjoy his birthday, wrapping up the regular season. Bill Belichick had his presser. He said, listen, I'm still under contract. I might be willing to give up my personnel duties in order to stay here, but basically this is on the Patriots, and we'll see what they decide to do. So no definitive answer in New England. Arthur Smith was the first one to go right as the clock pretty much struck midnight. He was out after 3 seasons in Atlanta. Which of those 3 coaching moves is most interesting to you? I guess there wasn't truly a move in New England, but at least we got some news.
Yeah, well, the Belichick stuff will be fascinating to see. I think it's more fascinating to see what happens next. And that's why I don't think we're doing like these goodbye Belichicks. To me, the greatest coach of all time. I don't want to hear, oh, well, yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah, he won 6 with Tom Brady. How many people are doing that? It's Arthur Smith. Because while I don't like Arthur Smith, did you look at any of these Falcons rosters over the last 3 years and say better than a 7-10 team? Because you really like they've been untalented. Outside now the skill positions have young new guys, right? Kyle Pitts and
Bijan.
Bijan and then Drake London, right?
Drake London,
So that's where I hate him. It's like I feel like he misused those 3 guys. But you look at just talent overall, and it's like you would look at that team and say 7-10 every single year.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of living in a fantasy football world distorts what you think is a good football team, right? You're like, well, who has a better young receiver, tight end, running back combo than that squad? And not only that, it felt like it was his reluctance to try and figure out a way to get Kyle Pitts the football, right? There were times he'd have 3 targets and 2 catches in a week. That's inexcusable. If you're going to draft a tight end as number 4 overall, then go use him. You're the offensive mastermind. Figure out a way to get him the football.
And this isn't like some fucking like, oh, this is the draft people said this guy's great. Like he had I think the second best rookie tight end season of all time in yards, right? And that was with Matt. I will never forgive people for making me think I'm crazy. The Colts trading for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was washed. His arm was totally done. He couldn't push the ball past 20+ yards.
Right.
And Kyle Pitts was able to do that with him. Now they've had, bottom of the NFL quarterback play since with Mariota and Ritter and Heineke. So it's hard to be mad at him for saying, hey, why don't you do much more with these quarterbacks? But like you said, it didn't feel like there was an effort to really get his best players involved.
Yeah. And I think that's probably at the end of the day, like you got all these shiny new toys. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about is the fucking quarterback situation. I'm sorry, Desmond Ritter is not the guy. He doesn't feel like it at all.
It's not even close to the guy.
No. And certainly Taylor Heineke isn't. I know that you were championing his cause early in the year just because he was the best of what felt like was available in the cupboard to use when baking the cake. But still, at the end of the day, it tasted like crap. It was too dry, and I would never serve it to guests. So they've got to figure that out, right? It is far and away the most important thing. Please find a quarterback. I don't care. You want to go get Kirk Cousins for a year or 2? Go do it. It feels like that would be right, but get the coaching search right. It's just, Arthur Smith, I guess he'll be fine because he could always get an internship at FedEx. He's good to go. But
8th pick in the draft. So what they do at quarterback is going to be one of the more fascinating offseason things. Will they try and be patient or like you said, go all out for Kirk Cousins? What do you think of the end of game interaction with Dennis Allen, and then one of the best locker room press conferences of all time with Jameis Winston?
Ever. It was phenomenal. I mean,
it was every second of it was hilarious.
That's the thing. Jameis is so fun and so good for the NFL and so likable these days. When you listen to him talk and you see his antics and everything else, like I can't decide whether or not I want him to be on the field and play, because then he's thrown 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in a year, or should he just kind of be this mascot on the sidelines.
Now, he's not a good starting quarterback in the NFL, but it is like the best part of that interview was like one just saying like, oh, this is a team decision, right? Like Dennis Allen needs to understand this is a team decision. And the end with that other reporter who's like, I disagree with it. And he's like, well, you're disagreeing with the entire team. It's like, no, Jameis, this was like you and Jamal Williams made this decision and in the huddle. Like this, like, and some people have turned that into like, oh, Dennis Allen doesn't have control. Like that was a Jameis being Jameis
Yes, it
type
was.
situation.
Yeah.
But also
By the
Arthur
way,
Smith, the getting all pissy about that drives me nuts, dude. It's the NFL, right? It's not like you're, you know, Oregon beating up on, University of Western Washington. Like it's the NFL. Like that's how you ended your head coaching career in the NFL, crying.
that's it. That's it. We'll see you. Somebody should get that framed. The pissy look of him at Dennis Allen. Geez, what a shit show that division was this year. There you go. That'll do it for the regular season. We are off and running the postseason. We'll do a show on Friday. We'll see if we get one out in the middle of the week. I think it really depends on how much coaching news there is. But as always, you can tune into football today. And I can't wait to preview the 6 games we've got starting on Saturday afternoon and going all the way till next Monday night. It is a great, great weekend of football. If your team did not make it, go find a team you can root for. Makes it more fun in the playoffs.
Let's go Browns.
Oh, God almighty, from your lips. Let's go, please. Well, let's do this. For producer Mikey and for Bobby Skinner from the Talking Giants world, I am Chris Rose. Thanks so much for tuning in to Football Today.